So, I mean, as a business owner and a designer, you wear many hats, right? So, can you describe the balance between the creativity as well as the commercial viability that goes into you when you create your pieces?
That is a great question. So when I design my pieces, I think of the functionality as
Mm,
well of the pieces. So something that's very unique for the Baliawear brand is that every piece converts in multiple ways.
right.
So someone once called me the fashion scientist because it's not only that I have to design a piece of clothing, I
Mm,
also then I have to think about how that clothing can either be worn front to back or can convert into multiple ways, but also could fit multiple sizes. So that's what's always kind of in my mind, that versatility piece, that
mm,
functionality piece. And then balancing that with the commercial aspect. I also I'm very focused as a
mm,
CEO on numbers. I want to make sure it sells. So I'm
sure.
constantly looking at what is out there while still be what is out there trend wise, but trying to be very unique and trying to make it wearable for all shapes and sizes. But it's
Mm,
definitely a balance. I think a lot of my learning from corporate as well is there's a lot of testing that
mm,
we're able to do right now with the ease of social media. I could just put up a piece and test it and see how the
mm,
audience reacts and then go from
mm.
there. And so I do a lot of small production. And then once it works, then I can actually go big production and then launch the line.
Sure. So, like, is social media the only testing you do? Since you come from corporate, you must also have, I believe, an analytical background, right? As well, with like economics and math. So, do you do
Yep.
things like statistical analysis or sentiment analysis or things along those lines, more into the data science realm?
Yeah, I actually, I'm kind of a nerd. So my favorite thing is to sit in front of my computer and like play in Excel. So there
Okay.
is a lot of like forecasting I'm doing every day and I'm pulling numbers and I'm making sure that everything makes sense. But that is my background, is the numbers piece, and then
Mm,
making sure that the sales match, my business goals and all of that, and the inventory matches in line with that. So yeah, I definitely am looking at that. I wish I did have more time to do more of like the trend analysis and pull more kind
right.
of the data
Right.
science thing. I know there's a lot of machine learning that can do that for me now, but that is something exciting that I definitely want to get into once I grow.
Definitely. So, I mean, do you find that sometimes when you're looking at these trends, customers tend to want the same thing over and over, and then you you kind of find yourself making those things over and over without trying to put your creative blend into it?
That is such a good question, because when you're on Instagram and you're scrolling, and
Mm,
now Instagram has all these algorithms, it kind of knows who you are and what you want to see. You start seeing the same thing over and over, right? The
mhm.
like toilet paper scarf trend with the little mini skirt was like super in.
Yeah.
So I think as a business owner, what's really important is to have a sense of, okay, what is trendy and what do I want to do and how do I stand out from that crowd? I
Mm,
actually recently came back from a trade show yesterday, and
okay.
sometimes when you're walking down the aisles, you do see the same thing over and over. So it is really
Yes.
important to just take yourself out of that and be like, Bollywood is very different. We are very unique
Mm,
because we transform in multiple ways. It's a very different thing. So
right.
I do have to take myself out of that. Okay, this is super, super trendy, and do like, what do I want to produce
Mm,
that I think could be something new, not versus something that's just out there.
definitely. So, I mean, with that being said, how much do you pay attention to the rest of the fashion industry when you were creating your designs?
I do. I have to, I have
Sure.
to follow all the trends and see what's out there,
Mm,
see what people want. But I think you kind of can get into like a rabbit hole spiral. And
uh,
so it's more of, okay, what is out there and how do we set the trend? I always tell my team too. I have
mm,
people on my team now. It's everything looks great when it's on another brand, but how do we make sure that we're setting a different trend, or can we set a different trend?
right.
Because that's going to set us above and beyond and actually make us a brand, not
Mm,
just someone who buys clothes and sells it like, some other people do.
definitely. So, I mean, when I would say, I forgot what I was going to ask. uh, I forget. Wow, I really forgot my question. Sorry.
Trends. I think we were talking about trends. We were talking about how we follow that sales. That's okay.
Mm. So, I mean, oh, right, right, right. So, do you think that looking at the trends is more so of a thing when you're a student in the designer world, or is it something you do all the time, regardless of age or regardless of experience in this industry?
I think as a business owner, you always have to be aware of what's out there. When you
Mm,
have more time as, so to speak, a student, or if I had someone designated just to design, I
mm,
think it would be more of, um, it would just make more sense for them to concentrate on looking at trends and following that. Because we are such a small knit team and I do a
yeah,
lot of the design as well, I am aware of that type of trending that's out there, but I haven't
mm,
dedicated the time to actually do like the trend forecasting and looking at the runways and all of that.
right. So I mean, when it comes to your designs and your prints specifically, especially compared to like all the prints and designs that I've seen for like example in Miami Swim Week or New York Fashion Week, yours comes off as more simplistic and minimalistic. And I think what you're going for is more so, uh, you said it's for empowered women, right? Like say maybe is it for women that are digital nomads in a sense, or like they run online businesses and they have their own lifestyle brands, is what you're catering towards more so?
I definitely love that empowered woman, how you were able to see that through our brand and how that
Right.
there's that string that runs through. Absolutely. I would say that I would like to encompass all women and not just those like
Mm,
trend seekers that want
right.
the newest and the brightest thing. I, again, with the idea of producing in a smart, thoughtful, ethical,
Mm,
and a sustainable way, I
mhm,
always try to think of my prints as also seasonless. It's resort. So in essence, resort is seasonless. It is when you're a resort and you're going somewhere and,
right.
people are buying for vacation or they live, in Miami and it's seasonless here. But I do want it to last. So the pieces for Baliawear they wrap fit so they can fit in any stage of your body. You can be pregnant, you could be,
Right.
bigger, smaller, whatnot. You can pass it on to your sister, you can pass it on to your daughter. That
Mm,
part is sustainable, but I also want the prints to be timeless. So
mm,
you're not just, it's not fast fashion. We're not fast fashion. I want you to be able, I want women to be able to wear it and use it for whenever they want. But I also want the
definitely.
prints to be bright and happy. So you're right. It is the art, they can come off more simplistic and something that I think our team vision wants to portray as happy and tropical. But I don't think we're ever chasing the trends, so to speak, from like New York or anything that's like, we always like look at it, when neons are in, we want to
Mm,
play on that. We knew the color of the year. We want to make sure that we give that to our audience. But yeah, it's
right.
more timeless, I would say, that we're looking to get to.
Interesting. So you're definitely in an interesting place when it comes to swimsuits, right? Because I think Miami's more so flash than simplistic and minimalistic. So in Miami, do you feel that the trend is kind of veering towards what you guys are doing, or is it always just flash and neon and sort of along those lines?
I think there is so much in Miami. There's so much for everyone. So I think you do see the flash in Miami, but you
Mm,
also see the elevated. You also see the understated. There's a lot, especially when you come to like Miami Swim Week. There
mm,
is so much that comes from all over the world. And I think it's more important to stick out and to stand
right.
out. And for me, I'm such a numbers person. I just care what sells. So to be
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to sell
yeah,
and be commercial, that is always top of mind for me.
definitely,
So yeah, we can do a little flashy, but I also, when you're in this industry and you have buyers from all over the world, you still want to cater to everyone. You want to stand
definitely.
out, but you want to also cater
Mm.
to a wide range.
So with that being said, like uh, with the, I guess I would say simplicity and minimalism, do you think that it's correlated to beauty and elegance more so now, or has it always been, in your opinion, when it comes to these trends?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always like to say with my pieces, it's I give you a base of clothing and it's how you make it your own. So I think the trend right now in social and even
Mm,
in store and brick and mortar, everything is how do you cater the audience by personalizing it to them?
mm,
And the simplistic, maybe not minimalist, but the simplistic like
mm,
base of my designs allow you to really personalize it to who you are and how unique you are as an individual. And I think
mm.
that's part of that like customer experience that I want to convey.
Okay, definitely. So, I mean, I guess I would ask, what's one thing about your business that you didn't expect it to achieve that you're proud of to this day?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I've had the business for 3 years. I
Mhm.
started in person at pop-ups, just like trying to test the audience and just like grinding. 2020 hit, and that was a blessing in disguise. So we
Mm.
actually had a store our first year. It happened to close March 2020, not because of COVID reasons, but blessing in disguise. And we switched all the way to online. So I think what's interesting is that we had a base of an online presence. And I think in any business, Nike, any big brand, in order to be successful, you have to have a little bit of luck in terms of trends.
Right.
Baliawear was able to pick up on the video trend really fast. So
Mm.
even before TikTok was TikTok, TikTok was growing, but Baliawear, because of
Mm.
the versatile aspect, I take
Right.
one piece and I move it around and it
Yeah,
has that
it's very
visual
cool.
appeal.
Mhm.
We were able to catch on to that video trend and really ride that wave. So I think in that aspect, that was a big thing that I was able to accomplish that was really exciting. And then now we're going into the wholesale route and we're doing a lot of resorts like the
Oh,
Ritz-Carlton,
cool.
Kimpton hotels, like all that, those big hotel chains. And I think
Oh,
that's
wow.
also a very big thing for us.
So how does that work with Ritz-Carlton and all these hotels? Like, what does the collaboration there look like?
Yeah, so a lot of these hotel chains, they are either privately owned, they might be owned by certain people, like we have the Cayman Islands now, and they do the Ritz-Carlton and the Kimpton. So there are like just private entities that own these hotels and then they open their own stores.
Mm.
So you're going to these trade shows and you're selling to these people and they can
Right.
open it. And so then, and then once you have one, you're reaching out to the other and it's like, okay, we're
Mm.
in this hotel chain now. Let us help you with your rebranding because we want to be a part of that Ritz-Carlton brand. We want to provide you that elevated resort wear.
Definitely. So are you, I would say you're more of a traveler, right? Into like tropical destinations and other various locations, right? So with that being said, where do the inspirations of your designs come from the locations you go to?
Yes, everywhere around the world, I would say, like the
Mm.
colors that really speak
Okay.
to you. Our new collection is called Capri. So it is the Capri Island in Italy. It really is the waters that were inspired by the coastal lines, the vibrance
Yeah.
of the city, the vibrance of the colors. But yes, definitely, as a resort brand,
Mhm.
it's very nice that we get to be inspired by the places that we go to or the places that you want to go to. I remember in
Definitely.
2020, I had a lot of customers just being like, they couldn't go anywhere, but they're like, we bought Baliawear. We just put it around our house and we're pretending we're on vacation because
Right.
it can like transport you in that way without actually going there. So I think that's kind of a nice thing.
That's awesome. So is it like for the locations, is it more of you derive inspiration from the culture of it, or is it more the landscaping of the area?
I would say both. I think the colors probably are like the landscape. The
Okay.
colors are the landscape. We are very inspired by like Southeast Asia. That's where I kind of got the idea of
Mm.
like wrapping everything. And then the culture and the people, yes, when you're like soaking that up and then wanting to like exude that vibrance. I think it's both, but I think visually it was probably the landscape.
Okay. Uh, what I would ask, what's one lesson that you think your industry has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their lives?
That's a good one. Let me think about it for a second.
Sure.
There are a lot of lessons, I think. One
Mm.
thing that like is very apparent to me is there's a lot of production in this world, a lot of production. So for me, it was really important from being on the side of, I was part of the corporate culture where we're ordering so many units and it does have to get destroyed one way or another if it doesn't sell. I was very conscious of that when I started a brand. So the sustainability aspect was really important for me. Seeing how there's so much produced.
Right.
Sometimes I feel like, when I go to these shows and I see a lot of it's what sticks and then what doesn't, I hope doesn't go down the trash. But
Right.
I was really cautious of that. There's just so much production in this world, especially because of retail, because you
Definitely.
are trying to get to every which customer, especially from a sizing perspective.
Definitely.
the production is a big thing. I think as an entrepreneur, I've learned a lot. And one thing I always say is just do it, just start it. Like I started at my pool drawing, and then I was like, oh, okay. Then I took my car and I drove, and I was like, hey, can someone produce this? And I just kept like the ball rolling. And I think
Okay.
one thing that came to mind this morning when I even thought about this interview with you was sometimes as an entrepreneur, just anybody in general, even in your brand at LVX Media, one thing that I find motivational is when you have a feeling of success, whether that is sales, whether that is I got my big fish company, is to try to hold on to that and try to get addicted to that feeling. Because if you get addicted to that feeling, you'll want it even more. And then you're like, okay, now I want it even more. How do I get there? And then just remember that feeling and chase that feeling. And I think that can help you go as an entrepreneur. That's just something I thought of today.
Definitely. So, I mean, did you always love putting pieces together as a kid, and then it seemed that you forgot about it, but then you revisited it, or were you always doing this as a kid till up, and you just realized you could turn this to a business?
Yeah. So Rohan, I don't know about you, but I grew up in like an immigrant family in California, very Asian. My parents are, they were born in Hong Kong, moved here when they were 20. And so they gave me, opportunity. But in that, it was always, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a business degree, you're going to be in finance, you're going to make a lot of money. So as a kid, I was always like, I loved fashion. I like cut up magazines, I put things together. I went in my closet, I cut up clothes, I made different things for myself. I loved it. But in the back of my head, it was like, you're not allowed to do that. Like, you're not allowed to do fashion design. You can't make a living there. So I went the business route. I was like, okay, well, if I'm not allowed to, I'm going to go business, and I'm going to do business in fashion. And that's what I did, which I actually ended up loving that part, the math, the finance. I loved that. And then until I was able to kind of breathe and step back is when I started this. But no, it was exactly what you said. I had the passion when I was a kid. In my head, wasn't allowed to do it, and then was able to transition later on.
Definitely. So, I mean, I heavily relate to that. My parents were definitely like, either doctor, lawyer, engineer, pharmacist, accountant, or bust. So
exactly. I feel you. Yep.
So from San Francisco, I guess, do you have some sort of influence in technology as well?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I was born and raised in the Silicon Valley. So in Cupertino, my parents were both engineers. And so technology has always been in the back of my mind. My first job, actually, I sold software sales for a company called ClearSlide, and we sold software to salespeople. So that was like my first kind of big corporate job. And from there, I was working so hard. I was like, why don't I do something I really love? That's when I made the jump to Gap. But yeah, technology is always in the back of my mind. I think one really interesting thing right now in fashion is that we're able to translate this into the metaverse. The metaverse is a new thing. It is very much real and alive, real in the virtual sense. But how do you translate what you have right now into that virtual space? I literally had the conversation today with my business partner, like, how do we get into the metaverse? NFTs, how do we make NFTs out of Baliawear, maybe to start. And then, Baliawear is convertible. It makes you dream. You can do that virtually. There are no limits in the virtual world. So if I wanted to have a Baliawear in Sandbox, in one of those worlds, and have the clothes convert while you walk, like that is something that's on my mind. And I definitely want to marry those two, like technology plus fashion.
Right. I think the gap is really closing up as well. I saw an interview with Naeem Khan, and he sort of takes an engineering route to designing his dresses and things along those lines as well. So
yeah, absolutely. I was like, I need to partner with an engineer because my sister's a graphic designer, and I was like, do you want to partner with me? Like, this would be cool. How do we get into this new world?
Right. So how does that blend happen more so in the essence? Because I also come from a STEM background, and I'm trying to blend what I love as with the engineering side of it as well, since I love the STEM side too. So
yeah, I mean, networking, I'm seeing how it is possible. I am trying to go to as many things as possible to learn and talk to as many people as possible to partner. But that is a great question, that blend. And I think that's out there. I think you have to maybe just go look for it and spend the time to do it. But
Mm.
I definitely want to be there. How do we actually blend those two worlds and make it happen?
Right. So, I mean, is graphic designer considered like the closest link as an engineer to fashion, in your opinion, or are there other types of engineers that you think would be well suited to be in this industry and have that sort of mindset as well?
So the graphic design, I think, is in the very traditional sense of what fashion is right now, right?
Mhm.
Everybody needs a graphic designer to do email marketing,
Yes.
to do logos, that type of thing. There's
Mhm.
tech design, which also has a little bit of kind of like the engineering type number work, just making sure that everything is like the specs fit and everything.
Mm.
That's traditional. I think if you were going to go into the metaverse, you would need an actual coder to be able to code your visions into how you want them to visually look in the metaverse.
Oh, okay. So
Right?
this comes into the metaverse.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Very
That's
cool.
what I would think. That's what my mind brings me to.
Yeah. Wow.
Unless
That's
you know
crazy.
better, Rohan, maybe there's another way.
I don't know, Alvina. I mean, I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out myself, but the only correlation that I could come up with is kind of data science and just like,
Okay.
I know my imagination is limited because like I don't know much about combining those two, but data science with the trend analysis and all that,
Yes.
I think it could be used in any field, and data is really big. So from the engineering perspective, the only thing I came up with like you was graphic design, but I think data science is the furthest I got if it
I
came to combining the two.
I agree, because there's so much of data science needed for like marketing, like all the marketing that we need to do right now, especially with the iOS Facebook update where data has been lost. It's how are you gathering that data and making sense of it and being able to get your brand across. So a lot of
Right.
trend, I mean, Google, any world that fashion needs it. Fashion needs that trend analysis.
Right. So, I mean, how would you describe the fashion industry today then, in your opinion?
Today,
Yes, today.
it is ever changing,
It
but
always
it's
is.
also very saturated. I would say also with 2020 and how a lot of people became entrepreneurs and started their own business and then realized that social media was a tool to get in and that anyone could. So because it's ever changing and saturated, it's more important now than ever to stand out, really stay true to what you believe, that your customer wants. And to deliver a really high quality product, because there's so many people out there,
Right.
that they have so many options. So just stay true to that and just make sure, I would say, like for me, every nugget I get from my customer or anybody that is like, wow, you have something different and you have something very unique and special, and just to hold on to that and just keep going, because there's a lot of noise. It can be hard sometimes, but
Definitely. I mean, what are the trends that your customers always ask you for? Like, do you see a trend that for you guys, your customers always ask for something different, or is it just the same throughout if your audience is, or if your target customer is the same?
I think in fashion, there always needs to be newness, which again lends to why there's so much production. But everyone likes something new. So
Right.
whether that's a new print or whether that's a new style, we always at least try to introduce some sort of newness, because you pay so much to have your current audience. Yes, you want to keep it growing, but you also want to keep that current audience happy and make sure you have that repeat customer, or else you're not going anywhere. You're just chasing fast. So newness, very, very important. And then delivering new prints is probably for me what I do most. I don't have a lot of styles, but new prints. And the customer does ask for new also styles as well. And that's where the fashion scientist has to spin her wheel, like what else is there to bring to the table that is different, that can keep the company growing, that can keep the collection growing.
So is it but everything mainly has to do with the wraps, right? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, everything has to be wrapped. We have like two big pillars of our brand. Number one is it wraps for a personalized fit. It wraps to your body, so it should fit you perfectly. And the second one is convertible. So in order to keep growing, we at least want the style to do one of two. To either be, or also I feel like it limits me if everything is just wrapped, then you just have a million different ties. So it's one of the two. It's either convertible or wraps. But yeah, so just more styles. I'm in resort right now, and I know resort is a great place, but in order to grow bigger, and like actually,
Yeah.
Nike, the Nikes of the world, the goals of the world is to
Mm.
introduce different weather products too. People like it for vacation, but how
Right.
do you then evolve into doing something for fall and winter and people around
Okay.
the world? And there's a large mass in Middle America that shops as well, and
Yes.
not just the coastal cities. So yeah,
Wow. So you're targeting everywhere.
eventually keep it small. I would
Okay.
say like as an entrepreneur, you need to keep it tight first because your budget's
Right.
tight, and then eventually slowly you can target if you want to get bigger, and we do.
So there's essentially going to be more trends to keep up with because people from the Midwest like something different than people from, the East Coast to people from West Coast, right? To people from
Yeah.
the South.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I think you still have to stay very true to your brand. I'm not going to cater to everyone. I do want to
Mhm.
expand the audience, to stay true to who we are, what we do, and our
Mm.
target customer, but eventually get a little bit bigger to capture more people and to make more people feel comfortable with the brand.
Right. So what's the common misconception that people have about this industry in your opinion?
That it's all
Mm.
fun and sparkle and butterflies and rainbows.
Right.
Rohan, literally as an entrepreneur, I am every day I'm sweating. I am sweating in one case or another.
Yeah.
I'm like carrying things. My car is full. It is like grind, grind, grind. And like
Mm.
even just the fashion shoots with the models or everything, I am
Yes.
running around with a bun in my hair, like trying to make sure things are right, like
Yeah.
giving water to one model. And it is constant, just like grind. It looks really pretty. We make everything look
Mm.
pretty and effortless, but it is very, very hard work.
Are you
Yes,
sure that's not just Miami being like
that
hot
too.
and all, right?
That too. I would say that too. But even when I go to and like a trade show somewhere else that's not Miami, it's just
Yeah.
I am constantly sweating because I'm carrying so much stuff all the time in my
Right.
car, transporting things, setting things up, breaking things down.
Mm.
It is, yeah, there's a lot of grind behind the pretty pictures.
Mm. What what's a challenge that you're facing currently in this industry, in your business, and how are you going about tackling it?
Yeah. We are growing fast. So one of the
Mm.
biggest things, especially in retail, is production. So
Mm.
production, and if you're a retailer, and I always tell my friends who want to start a clothing company, that your production partner is probably going to be your most important partner,
Mm.
because if you don't have inventory, what are you going to sell, right? So I think
Right.
the industry, as everybody is kind of aware right now, a lot of products,
Mm.
a lot of our materials are being delayed. A lot of workforce hasn't necessarily gone back. One thing about like the sewing trade is it's not really the sexiest trade. So you don't see a
Mm.
lot of our generation even getting into being
Yeah.
seamstresses at a
Yes.
factory. So the factories are far and few between. And so
Mm.
our growth in numbers is going right now a little bit faster than our production. So that has
Oh,
been
wow.
my main goal right now, is to kind of keep those in line and make sure that, yeah, I can marry those two and have a it's always, up and down, up and down. But
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So why would there be such a shortage of seamstresses, in your opinion?
I think it's not really just like a growing trade, right? We don't
Mm.
have a lot of people they're not that excited to go into that workspace. I don't, when you
Mm.
go and visit a factory, there's not a lot of young people that are getting into sewing and
Right.
and and making the actual product. It's not as sexy as, other
Yeah.
jobs that are out there. So there are people, I mean, even people who just go to fashion school and want to make clothing,
Mm.
they don't go into a factory. They want to design, and they
They
want to
want
be
to
in the
design.
peripheral and not kind of just in the factory. So at least in the States too, it's also it's expensive to make things here. So a lot of things are abroad. So a lot of
Mm.
probably that trade is abroad. But I'm not seeing a lot of people entering this trade. Uh,
Wow.
yeah.
That's kind of weird because like in tech, it's cool when you're like the product maker or like
Right?
you're even the product designer as well. Like the combination works well together in product management and product.
Yep.
So that's interesting in fashion.
Yeah, but it does make sense though, right? Because when you're in tech and you're
Mm.
part of making the product and the code, it is a high paying job. It
Yeah,
really is.
that's true. Mhm.
And a lot of people want to enter that because it's going to benefit you very well. But I think one of the issues of retail as well is that everybody expects we're so connected as a world right now that
Mm.
everybody expects shipping to be like Amazon and
Right.
prices to be like Amazon. They're all made abroad where they're not, if you're paying $10 for a t-shirt, can you imagine how much you're paying for production? Probably not a lot, the people that are
Mhm.
doing it, right? But
Right.
it's endless cycle of people wanting and demanding that price, but who's going to get paid to actually make it?
Mm.
And so I think that is something that I always try to do this on my Instagram. It's really hard, but I always try to tell people like retail is an ecosystem. What you
Yes.
put in, what is what you're going to get out. The reason why our prices may seem high is because we are trying to do ethical production made in the
Mm.
USA and pay our people well because they deserve it. It's quality work. It takes them hours to make this product. You are going
Mm.
to get the quality, but you will have to pay for it.
Definitely.
And then sustainability, sustainability is an ecosystem. If I buy
Mm.
sustainable products, if I buy sustainable fabrics and I give it to you and you buy it, then I can buy more sustainable. And it should work as an ecosystem, but
Uh,
it's not always the cheapest. And, it's hard sometimes.
Definitely. So are you always trying to ramp up in quality? Like right now you're using, I believe, polyester satin.
Yeah.
Would you be trying to do like silk satin or anything like that later down the line?
Yeah. So I actually used to work with silks when I started. I
Mm.
did love silks. They are really hard to work with though. Like you get like one drop on it and it's done. Like
It's,
you're
yeah.
done. You can't like it's like irreparable. So the reason why we use poly satins is because they are washable and they do feel like silk. And we
Mm.
are the prints that we're printing are recycled poly. So we are
Okay.
trying to still use the recycled route of the poly. Poly does get a bad rep though, because everyone's like, it's poly.
Yeah.
But it does act like a silk without having to manage like a silk. You can still wash it. You can still go in the water with it, I
Yes.
think is one of the big things.
Right.
And there's recycled polys, which also can be good for the universe.
Mm. Definitely. Yeah, for silk, it would I think that would be more for like people who aren't near the water, right? Or anything.
Mhm.
In that sense, or people who are just not going to use the designs for, or not the designs, but the piece for the water.
Yeah. But it's a good point because people have asked me for it. Like, how do you elevate the brand? Do you want to get into that like elevated piece and pay for it,
Mm.
have it cost more, pay a little bit more for it and all
Right.
that. And definitely that's always on my mind. It's
Oh,
something that
okay.
could be part of the brand.
So would you consider your Baliawear a luxury brand right now?
I would say that it's like not fast fashion and it's not like super luxury, but it is an
Mm.
elevated brand. Yeah, it is an elevated brand. We still, take our time to make things. It's handmade. It's,
Mm.
elevated material. Yeah, I would still say it's like a luxurious brand, a luxury brand.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that's all the questions I had.